welcome to the Life of Phys Podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Martin, and on this episode I have Josh A Katz, a Los Angeles-based portrait photographer who has shot with Dr. Dre, met Killer Mike while embarrassing his wife in a Los Angeles hot dog shop, and later shot his portrait, all by asking the simple question, hey, can I shoot your photo sometime? Now let's get a quick word from our podcast partner and get to the show. The Life of Phys Podcast is lit by Hobolight. Hobolight is on a mission to empower creators to elevate their creativity with lighting kits made to last and built to inspire. These lights are bold, beautiful, and powerful because Hobolight believes that your lights deserve to be seen. To learn more, follow them on Instagram at HOBOLITE.
All right, I'm Josh A Katz. I live in Los Angeles, California. I'm mainly an editorial portrait photographer, but I dabble in some other forms of photography here and there. Celebrity portrait work is kind of my main focus. You know, everybody's a celebrity for a minute anyway, so make it work.
I pretty much think you could make anybody look like a celebrity.
Doing my best.
I mean, you've worked with one of my favorite rappers in the world, producers, Dr. Dre. So why don't you tell us that story?
He was working on a movie. I'm not really allowed to talk about exactly the project or whatever, but I was hired on to be the on-set BTS photographer. And a buddy of mine was one of the producers. So when they were on a soundstage, the second day of the 3 days I was there, or I was there 2 days out of the 3 that they were there, they set me up they got a studio with a white site. So they had a whole portrait room set up, and I was able to bring in my own lights, and I was able to get portraits of people in the movie. And he was one of them. And he was like the nicest guy on the planet. Just such a nice guy, just warm and caring, and like the opposite of like the gangster persona that he portrayed in the 90s, you know, like just very sweet.
Not what you would expect. Like even looking at the photo, he's mastered the look, you know, that
look on his face. I don't know if you've seen more than just the 2 images that are on my website, but he sat down to take the pictures, and I had 2.5, maybe 3 minutes tops with him. He gave me a couple different poses. He, threw up the rock fingers, and he gave me a big smile. And then there's one shot, I don't think it's on my website, where it's him standing up and he's giving me this look of like, if you didn't get it, you weren't good enough to be here. See you later.
Yeah.
And I did get it. So I feel
nice. That's incredible. I mean, it must be such a surreal experience when you have this preconceived notion or expectation of what somebody is by the persona that they carry. And they turn out to be just a great individual.
I mean, I've been really lucky. I've shot a few celebrities and a few, famous people, and I've been really lucky that everyone has just been really nice. I mean, I worked in the entertainment business for almost 12 years, working in movies, TV shows, commercials, things like that. And other than maybe 2 celebrities who I won't name at this point, everybody's nice. It's like once you've reached this level of celebrity, it's like, why not and be nice? And for the most part, people are. I mean, like I said, a couple people here and there have been the opposite of what you would think. For the most part, I mean, yeah, I've been really fortunate to work with really nice people that are just kind of there for the collective experience.
That's such a great perspective. I worked on a few movies up here in Vancouver, just providing product.
From working on movie sets, like it takes so many people to make a movie, hundreds of people that like, it'd be weird to walk into that situation and be like, I'm going to be a dick to everybody. And like, it just wouldn't really make the experience work. So it's like, you're there in a big community of people, you might as well act like it. So mostly I find that most people are pretty nice.
Yeah. And you've also worked with the one and only Killer Mike. Tell us about that one.
That was really cool. I met him. My wife is a huge Run the Jewels fan. She has their logo tattooed on her arm. And, kind of post-lockdown, still pandemic times, when you were able to go out, but you had to wear a mask. We went to this hot dog stand in Hollywood called Carney's. It's in an old train car.
Oh, cool.
And as we were pulling in, there was this huge black SUV with dark tinted windows. I was like, man, I wonder who that is. It's right in the middle of Hollywood on the Sunset Strip. So it's going to be somebody. And car parks behind us, and I get out and I hear this booming voice, and I kind of laughed at her. I was like, oh, is that Killer Mike? Like, because she loves Killer Mike and LP, like huge fan. And she was like, yeah, right, there's no way it could be. So we go upstairs to the train car, and we're in the one end. We order, and we go to kind of wait on the one end of this train car, and you enter from the back end of the train car, and he comes walking up, and I was like, dude, that is Killer Mike. There's no way it's not. Like, full mask, but come on, man. Like, how many people could that be?
Yeah.
So she starts kind of shaking, like, oh my God, it's Killer Mike. And I was like, all right. So I just went to the other end of the car. I was like, hey, man, I'm really sorry to bother you, but are you Killer Mike? He's like, yeah, what's up? I was like, I don't know if you can see the 5'10" blonde girl shaking like a leaf on the other end of the train car, but she's a huge fan of yours. He's like, bring her over, man, bring her over. So brought her over. She showed him the tattoo. He was like, oh, let me get a selfie. I got to send this to my wife. Like, I always love meeting fans. So we ended up just hanging out, talking for a while. And I was like, yo, if there's ever a chance, could I shoot your portrait? And he was like, dude, of course, take my number, which is crazy. Like, not like hit up my manager or like, email or whatever. Like, here's my actual cell phone number. Hit me up. So we kind of corresponded back and forth for a while, talked on Instagram. And then one day out of the blue, he hit me up and was like, hey, man, what are you doing tomorrow? I was like, I don't know. What's going on? He's like, do you want to come to my hotel room and take my picture? I was like, yes. So I got up and grabbed one light, my GFX, and a camera bag, and I showed up at this hotel, and I get there 11 a.m. sharp. That's when he wanted me there. And I start setting up, and he's like, hey, by the way, I got to leave in 20 minutes for the airport. Like, oh, man. All right. So I just basically set up my one light, and I just started spraying and praying. I brought my Contax 645 also, and of course had the wrong setting, and all my film was screwed up. But again, it's like this common thread of like, you've got this short window sometimes, and can you make it happen? And I think that's really the hardest part of my job, and also the most exciting. It's like, if I do my own personal work, like I have an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, who knows how much time with my subject. But when you get these more famous kind of celebrity type people, like they have schedules and they're busy, so it was really cool. I got to meet his wife and his manager and hang out and his dog, and like I've seen him a couple times since then. We went to the Run the Jewels show at the Palladium and got to go backstage and hang out. He's just like a big, sweet, cuddly guy. He's super rad.
Very intelligent. Like listening to, his thought process on things is so impressive, because a lot of people don't dig deep, or they don't think deep, right? They just think for the moment. Oh man,
he is a deep thinker. That dude he's playing chess, 3D chess with the world.
He is for sure. So how long have you been shooting celebrity stuff?
I've been doing that probably about 10 years, almost maybe 8 years. I worked in the entertainment industry for a long time, and a lot of my friends stayed in it and became producers and directors and things like that. So I've been really fortunate to have people in my corner that call me up and say like, yo, I got this gig and I need a photographer. It's actually how I ended up moving back to Los Angeles from the Bay Area. I was getting calls all the time from people that were like, yo, can you come and shoot? Like the Dr. Dre thing was like, hey, can you come and shoot Dr. Dre in 2 days? I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to say yes, but that's kind of a pain in the ass, because like, it's tough to pack up all your stuff and drive 6.5 hours and find a place to stay and, all this stuff. But, so yeah, I ended up moving back down here because I was getting calls so much. And the pandemic happened in the world, and that kind of out. But, I persist. It's all good. Yeah, I've been shooting celebrities for about 8 years. I've been shooting portraits for about 10 years, but I've been shooting all my life. My grandfather was a photographer. My dad's best friend is a very accomplished photographer. I just grew up around photography. My grandfather worked for Life magazine covering Hollywood in the 60s. So I grew up around those photographers from Life magazine that took, portraits of Marilyn Monroe and everybody, Bob Willoughby was someone I grew up around. Alan Grant was someone I grew up around. And my parents saw that I had an interest in it when I was pretty young and got me one of those Kodak disc cameras. Do you remember those? Like the flat circular film with like the little, look like a viewfinder thing. They got me one of those when I was little. There's a photo I posted on Instagram recently I found of me at like maybe 6, 7 years old holding my little camera and taking pictures throughout my house. So my mom's an artist, my grandma's an artist, my grandfather was an artist, my dad's artistic. And they saw that I had a interest when I was very little and nurtured that in me, which I'm very lucky for.
That's amazing to have that connection to your photography.
Yeah.
Photography for me was a real late in life find. So I didn't find it. 5.5 years now I've been shooting.
Okay.
Skateboarding was my creative outlet from the time I was 8 until I was 37.
Nice.
And then I broke my ankle for the 9th time, and that was the end of my run.
I was a terrible skateboarder. I tried to get into it when I was a kid, and I'm not good at getting hurt. So it was that was just kind of out, because you have to be able to get hurt.
Yeah.
I would fall too easily and get hurt too easily. And I was like, yes. But skateboarding photography, when I was a kid, a teenager, I shot a lot of skateboard photography just because all my friends skated. So the two definitely go hand in hand.
They do, for sure. To me, skateboarding is an artistic outlet. Just like photography or painting or carving. It's all creative.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of open this podcast now to all creatives. I'm not going to, photography is my thing. So I love talking to photographers. I love talking about gear. I love talking about setting up shoots. But I also want to hear stories of people who do something different than me. That do, like Caballero, illustrator, musician, legendary skateboarder. It was really cool. We focused on skateboarding for about 5 minutes. And then I wanted to hear about the illustration. I wanted to hear about his music. And I wanted to hear about his life thoughts. And he delivered, man.
That's awesome. I gotta check that one out for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a cool thing about podcasting and photography as well is that you get to be in rooms and have these sort of one-on-one or intimate experiences with all kinds of people. I mean, I shoot a lot of actors because I'm in Los Angeles. It's kind of, everyone here is an actor or an actress. But I've shot concert musicians, classical musicians. I've shot, potters. I've, people in the food industry, in the restaurant business. I mean, you get to spend time with people and really get to have a moment with them. It's really cool.
Yeah, it must. You're definitely in the hub of it.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Do you have any advice you could give somebody who, say, is just getting started wanting to shoot celebrity type portraits, movie portraits, things like that? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I think, and this one's really hard for me because I don't like asking people for favors ever. I don't know why. It's just something that I've always had trouble doing. But if there's someone you want to shoot with, ask them. The worst thing they can do is say no. And the best thing they can do is say yes and be a piece of your portfolio forever. I mean, like I said, Killer Mike, I just met him randomly in a hot dog shop. We shot the shit for a minute, and then I asked if I could take his picture, and he said yes. He could have been like, nah, I'm sorry, I'm a busy guy. And it'd be like, okay, that's fine, And I've definitely had people say no, but really the biggest thing and the hardest thing is just to ask and then follow through. It's really, you can know the basics of your camera. You can be a great photographer or a bad photographer. It doesn't matter. If you don't have subjects to shoot, then you're, if you're a nature photographer, that's great. But if you're a landscape photographer, architecture photographer, that's, there's always buildings and mountains and stuff out there, which is, you don't have to ask permission to shoot them. But if you're a portrait photographer, you got to get intimate with people. And that's, I guess, another piece of advice is don't ignore getting intimate with your subjects. I can't remember who the photographer is, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's, you need to fall completely and madly in love with your subject for the 5, 10, 15 minutes or whatever it is that they're sitting in front of your camera. And really just try to get to know that person as best you can in those few moments you have.
That is fantastic advice. That goes for podcasting too.
Reaching
out to, who'd I reach out to? Ernie, I butcher his last name every time, but he's a hip hop photographer, old school.
Okay.
Ernie P. He's an indigenous photographer, and I'm indigenous as well. So I tried to use that to my advantage. And, his assistant, he's well known. He's done many books, and his assistant was like, man, we're booked through third quarter of this year already, and he's not taking any more. Perfect. You know what? I tried. You miss all the shots you don't take, right?
Yeah. But then, maybe reach back out in third quarter and be like, hey, just checking back, man. Would you like to do my podcast? Again, the worst they can say is no.
Exactly.
No one's going to hate you for asking to work with them, especially if you're showing a deep interest in what it is that they do.
Yeah. And that's kind of another basis of this is I base everything on people that inspire me. Their work, if it inspires me, I want to hear the story. So I think we found each other on Threads.
Yeah.
And it was
Threads has been great. Threads has been the coolest. I've met 4 or 5 people through Threads that I've taken photographs of or become friends with, or it's so weird that a social network can actually be a social place. It's
right.
Kind of like Instagram used to be, right? I met tons of people through Instagram. Some of my best friends I met through Instagram. But, the last few years it hasn't been like that. But Threads has been really cool.
Yeah, I was browsing and I was just trying to find ideas to get myself inspired for portrait photography. And I want to take very much candid, outside portraits, but of people I know, instead of taking advantage of the less fortunate that are on the streets like a lot of people do. I want to just create something, in kind of a candid manner, but I have no idea how to do any of it. So I was looking, and then I think I saw it was either the Dre or the Killer Mike shot, and that just piqued my interest. And that's what brought me to your profile. And
I love that.
And then I threw the question out, man. I'm like, I want to learn portrait photography and I don't know anything. And I think you were the first or second person that was like, whatever you need, man, just ask.
Yeah, dude, just ask. I'm mostly, I've had a few teachers, but I didn't go to college or school for photography. I've learned through YouTube and through friends and through experimentation, and any knowledge that's in my head, like, I don't want to hold it up. Like, I'm happy to share it. And really, I mean, while we're on the subject, the best thing you can do is follow the rule of thirds. Pretty much that simple. Like, you know the rule of thirds, use it. And if you don't know it, Google it. It's super easy. Like, composition is everything. That's at the core of everything I do is the rule of thirds. It was the first thing I ever learned, and it's just stuck in my head.
That's true.
Yeah, actually, I had this kid at the grocery store ask me who like knew my work. He asked me like, yo, how do I take good pictures? And I was like, what are you shooting with? He was like, pretty much just my iPhone. I'm like, that's great. That's an awesome camera. Here, let me see your phone. And I turned on the rule of thirds and I told him how it works. And I was like, just use that. And I saw him a couple months later. He was like, dude, that changed everything for me. Like, it made everything so much better. Like, yeah, there you go. Like, like the basic compositional skill it's just fundamental. You can't, like Kobe's footwork. You got to be fundamental.
100%. You got to be fundamental and put in that work.
Yeah.
So let's get the everybody's favorite question. Let's get the gear question out of the way. What is it that you shoot with?
Oh, man. How much time do we have?
We have as much time as you want.
Like I said, I started when I was young, and I started when there was only film, and I still love film. I don't shoot as much anymore just because it's so expensive, and it's a slow process, and most of my clients don't want to pay for that extra expense and time. But my main camera is a Fuji GFX 100S. I'm looking at upgrading to the 102 pretty soon. Kind of having trouble. That's my main camera. I have a few lenses for that, but I have a Contax 645 and a Mamiya 645 and a couple, it's too blurry, but I got a couple 4x5 cameras up there. One of my all-time favorite cameras is the Fuji GX 680, which is this massive, it's huge. Like if you've seen an RZ67, it makes that look small, or a Hasselblad, it makes those look tiny. Like it's this ridiculous camera that I just absolutely love. And I bought one that actually turned out to used to belong to Michael Greco, the punk rock photographer, which was really cool.
Oh, wow.
And I reached out to him and told him I had his old camera, and he was like, that's amazing. How did you get it? I'm like, oh, I bought it, on eBay, and your assistant was selling it and told me it was yours. And I asked him if I could shoot his portrait on that camera, and he said yes, but we haven't been able to get our schedules to line up yet. So that's in the works. But yeah, that's another, just ask and maybe they'll say yes kind of situation. But yeah, my main camera is the Fuji GFX.
Yeah, the 100S.
Yeah.
I like getting the gear question out of the way because then we don't have to talk about it.
The gear question, like I love film cameras. I mean, I really love them. And there was a couple of years ago, I came into just like a little touch of money, and I've always had this all-time wish list of cameras. Like once every couple of years, I'll buy a camera that's off the list and be like, oh, I got, like the Mamiya 645 Pro that was on there for a while. I have that actually with a friend of mine who's an actress right now. But I bought a Hasselblad X-Pan, which is probably the coolest 35 millimeter camera ever made. It's a rangefinder and it shoots panoramic photos over 2 frames of film. So it just, every single shot you take looks like a scene from a movie. It's just like instant nostalgia. It's just cool. Like it's the coolest camera. And I love that thing.
Nice. I had the list too, and that's where my 50R was on that list.
Nice.
As soon as they released it, I wanted that camera, and I was too new in the industry to even think about moving to that. I was happy with my XT3.
Mm-hmm.
It took me 5 years I actually traded for it. I traded an X Pro 2 and a Ricoh GR3
Good.
for the 50R.
That's a good trade.
Yeah, it worked out good for both of us. He's super happy. He was selling the X Pro, kept the Ricoh. The little Ricoh's a great camera, but man, I'm on the fence with that thing all the time.
Yeah.
I either love it, then I hate the fact I can't change the focal length.
Right. I only think there's a viewfinder, which I know doesn't matter at all, but I just wanted to have one. Yeah, I traded a Nikon FE2 for a Mamiya RZ67. That was a good trade. It was kind of like let me borrow this, I'll let you borrow mine for a while, and then it turned into a lifelong trade, which is work for me,
Yeah, that's a good trade for you. Yeah, I'm in the same boat right now. I have another Ricoh here that I'm struggling because I picked up an XT30 to use as a webcam and to film some review type work and, eventually start doing some more video podcast type stuff. And the XT30 is not much bigger, but it's higher megapixel. It's Fuji colors that I'm used to. And it's a good little camera. I can use that in the place of a Ricoh. So I'm tried to put it up for sale 3 times now, and I just can't do it for some.
I have trouble selling cameras. Every time I sell a camera, I immediately regret it. Even if I haven't touched it in 5 or 6 years or something, or it's just collecting dust and I never use it. Like as soon as I sell a camera, I'm always like, oh, I wish I had that camera. Because I'm a big believer in, I mean, I'm lucky because I have all of these cameras and I've been able to like afford them, which is very lucky, knock on wood, that I, can make that work in my life. But I really believe that each camera has its own purpose. Like some shoots you don't need, but like some shoots, it's cooler to have a camera with a hand grip. But some shoots, it's cooler to like use the old, Hasselblad style with the button on the front. And sometimes it's 35 millimeter. And sometimes, like I really feel like each shoot has its own special thing. My all-time favorite camera, but it's the Polaroid 600 SE. It's a range.
Okay.
It shoots on peel apart film. So it shoots on instant film like this.
Nice.
And I try to I've got a fridge full of old peel apart pack film that's expiring, and obviously I don't make it anymore. Every time I have a session, I bring a pack and I burn through 10 frames. And that's just something that I love doing. Because
nice. Especially
when you shoot someone who's like under 25 and they've never seen a peel apart Polaroid before, it's like seeing their eyes bug out of their head. Like it's magic to me too, but like it's really magic to them. They've never seen such a thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's super cool. I found a Polaroid land camera.
Nice.
Brand new in the hard case with the timer, everything. Yep. And I was so excited. It cost me $25.
Dude.
I looked at it. I don't think it's ever been used. But then you start looking at trying to find the film.
Yeah.
And what people charge for it.
Dude, it's like $150 a pack now.
Yeah. So it sits in my case that I have just open. It's, the accordion's pulled out.
Yeah.
It looks all cool.
They look cool as hell.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor one of these days when you have an extra $150 or whatever it is, like buy a pack and shoot it. It's just the most amazing experience. And it's, we're losing that. I don't think anybody's going to make peel apart film again in a quantity that's worth doing. I mean, I know there's one instant who does, they're trying, but yeah, it's just getting more and more expensive and harder to find. And it's worth doing once.
Yeah, that's on the list. I was talking, I had Bettina LaPlante on.
Nice.
A few episodes ago. And I mean, she's an amazing portrait photographer in her own right.
Absolutely.
And she was showing me, like, while we were talking, she's walking around with her phone, showing me her camera collection. And she has a land camera. And she's like, this is how weird it is. She opens her fridge and it's all Fuji pull apart film.
Yeah. I've got a mini fridge in my garage like that.
Just boxes and boxes. And I was like, oh, you want to send me some, please?
I've done trades for people. I've done trade work for people where I have friends who are, photographers that have had peel apart film in their fridge for years. And I'm like, I don't want any of your money. Like, just hook me up with as much peel apart film as you're willing to spare. And I mean, I buy it whenever I can. If I see some cheap, I bought it on eBay. I bought packs that are duds. It doesn't matter. Like, as long as I can get my hands on it, I'm going to keep trying.
Nice. I'm going to definitely have to try that before it goes through the roof.
Do it.
She also mentioned that her mentor and personal friend was Elliott Erwitt.
Oh.
And I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever heard.
That is pretty damn cool.
And because community is so important, and that's what I'm really gaining and trying to push, is to build a very strong, positive community environment for photographers and artists alike. When she told me that Elliott was very supportive and very much about that community feel, I knew I was onto something.
That's really cool. He's a legend. I mean, that's no small name to drop right there. That's amazing.
You have any projects coming up that you're working on that you can talk about?
I have a couple things that I'm working on that sort of fit in with my series, The Mother, that you were looking at earlier. Kind of more
I was just about to bring that up.
More art directed, more cinematic style of work. I've got a couple things that I'm working on that I'm working on with a producer and trying to put that together right now. Great thing about being in LA is there's no shortage of stages to rent. So I just sit there on PeerSpace or Gigster and like just scroll through it and look for places that would look cool in the photo and then try to plan shoots around that. So I'm working on a couple of those. They're kind of early days, a little not great to talk about just because it's living in my head. The project, The Mother, that lived in my brain for probably 3 or 4 years before I actually made it happen. And that was so cool to see come to life. I actually got a 24 by 32 inch print made of the first one there with, you can see her in the mirror and sitting in the chair. Blows my mind to see it go. that I've taken quite big.
Man, like I look at that and, you know, you see the gold leaf in the mirror.
Yeah.
And it took me instantly back to the 70s.
Totally.
Like, you know, 6 years old. And I still remember seeing houses with that same kind of chair.
Yeah.
The same shag carpet with that mirror.
Before anybody says like, oh, you just ripped off Gregory Crewdson, like, yeah, I absolutely did. That is one of my biggest influences in the world and one of my favorite photographers of all time. So that project was heavily, heavily influenced by him to the point of, being derivative almost, but it's all good. I love his work.
Well, if anybody who wants to look at it while they're listening to the podcast, all his stuff will be in the show notes. You need to check out the Mother under the projects tab. It is incredible work.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I have that. I've got some portrait sessions coming up. Wish I could talk about. There's the documentary project that's coming up that I'm going to get to shoot on set for a few weeks, which is going to be really cool. So yeah, I've always got something in the works.
Any projects that you have, inspirations? Who's inspired you to continue pushing yourself?
Gregory Crewdson is obviously, like I just mentioned, a huge inspiration. Bob Willoughby, I don't know if you know his work. He shot everything for Life magazine back in the day. Is huge influence to me. And right now, I mean, it's just like the people on the Reds that are kind of just pushing their work out there. I just love to be, you know, like we all are mad at Instagram right now for limiting our, and we all have to fight through it or whatever, I guess. I don't know. Maybe we should just stop using Instagram altogether. But, you know, just anybody who's really doing great work. A lot of musicians in LA, photographer, musician friend of mine, Meredith Adelaide. I love her work. She does a lot of self-portrait work. Shoots a lot of musicians. She's brilliant. She's really great. Who else do I like right now? I've just forgot everybody that, you know, put me on the spot.
Sorry, man. That's usually how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I think anybody who's hustling through and just making really good, you know, anybody who is putting their heart into it. I don't want to say anybody's making good work because that's so subjective, but anybody who's putting their whole heart into what they're doing artistically in any way, I just respect that so much.
Yeah, it's a tough, art is so subjective. So when people try to tell you what you did wrong in your work, it seems such a weird, it's a weird thing to me. Or the people who want to yell at people online that they suck. And
I don't get that at all.
I don't understand. I just don't understand why anybody would act that way, for one, because those other people, even though you're trying to be tough behind a keyboard, whatever it is, that really can affect that person. Yeah,
I had a buddy who just on Threads the other day, he's like the nicest guy on the whole planet. Like he's like, we met through Instagram and we had coffee one day and like now we're buddies. He posted something on Instagram about like, oh, we should be nicer to each other. And like all he got was hate. Like, people talking trash on his photos and his skills, and like it was like, dude, this guy's just like out there shooting street photos trying to have a good time, and he just got shit on for saying that we should be nice to each other. It's so messed up, man. I don't understand how anybody has time in their life to like go out of their way to be mean to somebody on the internet. I mean, you know, like I'll go talk trash to basketball players or whatever, but like, you know, not that they're like bad at basketball, but like they're on a different team and it pisses me off. Or you know what I mean? Like, but I'm not going to go out of my way to bash them as human beings. That's so weird. Like,
it is.
It's weird to see hate on a photography post where it's like, unless the person asked for criticism or feedback, like why don't even give it? Like, just say it's nice and move on, or don't say it's nice and move on. Like, it's really not that hard to be like a fairly decent human being.
When I first started using the community over competition tag, people were like, well, no, we need competition. Competition is what makes everybody better. And I said, oh, I believe if we build a proper community, everybody can be better. And, you know, it took a while, but it slowly started taking off. And the next part of this here, Josh, is, you know, creativity and mental health, and what if you see the two going hand in hand.
Oh, absolutely, man. When my mental health suffers, my creativity suffers, and then it makes my mental health worse, and it's like a spiral. I mean, I went through, probably had a shoot maybe almost a year ago at this point, and everything about this shoot was a pain in the, like, I love the client. I don't want to, you know, again, I'm sorry to be vague and not bring up who it is, but like, I don't want to bash anybody, but the client was being kind of a pain, and they wanted to switch locations at the last minute, which is a pain. And like everything was just kind of a pain. And then I mean, you've seen my work. I'm very much a strobe photographer. I will shoot natural light if I have to, but I prefer to use strobes. It's just how I like to work. And they made me switch locations from an indoor dark studio to a daylight studio, which I was like, all right, so now I'm shooting with natural light in a studio that's not the studio that I normally use, with the gear that I normally use. Like, and then the photos, like people really like the photos, but there's something about, they just don't feel like me. So I kept looking at these photos and being like, wow. And like, I spiraled out for months. I just couldn't shoot anything because I had this one shoot that didn't go the way, I guess when I say it out loud, it sounds kind of petulant, but it just messed me up. And like feeling like I had lost my way as a photographer sent me into a depression that I couldn't get out of for a while. And then I couldn't shoot because I couldn't get out of my head. And then I couldn't get out of my head because I couldn't shoot. So finally I just had to, my friend Meredith, who I was just speaking about, she was like, come over and let's shoot some photos in my house. And we did. And it was great. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I feel like I'm back, and it got me out of my head and got me out of my depression. So, you know, like the two really go hand in hand, I think, for any artist. I think that, you know, the reason I take pictures is because it's the only thing that I can't not do. Like all of my life, I've taken pictures. It's just something that I do. And feeling like you can't do that is just soul wrenching. It just hurts inside, you know?
Yeah, it can definitely take you into places you don't want to be.
Yeah.
Hypercritical about yourself. You're like, that's not even my work. I just did what they wanted.
Yeah.
There's no part of me in that job.
Yeah, I had like 12 people on set that were all directing, and I was like, why am I here? Like, this isn't my style. You're not letting me direct. You're not, you know, like what, like you all have iPhones. Like, why didn't you just shoot this? Like, why are you paying me to be here? Like, you know, that was tough, but
yeah,
you know, I managed to get out of that and push beyond. And it actually, in the long run, I think it really helped my work, spending some time hating my own work and being like, okay, well then what do I need to change? Like, what is it about my work that's no longer inspiring? And how do I make work that inspires me to go out and make work again?
Exactly.
So, periods can be blessings, but they're also, they're hard, man. They're really hard.
Life lessons, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's a speed bump in your career, and one hand you're thinking, is this what my career is going to be now?
Right.
Where's Josh? I don't see myself in that photo. But when we realize that it's not a roadblock, it's just a speed bump.
Totally.
And we get over that speed bump, we see something different, something new comes out of our style. For me, I couldn't shoot anything. I would wander the streets like, something speak to me. I need something. And it turned out it was a garbage can with a chain to a pipe. It was locked to a pipe. And I was like, why is it chained there? So I took a photo and I looked at it on the back of the screen and I was like, I just took this photo with a medium format camera and I'm in love with it.
Nice.
I walked the rest of the alley shooting all the dirty dumpsters and really gross stuff on the road. And I was like, I'm going to shoot dumpsters for the rest of my life.
That's awesome.
And I was okay with it.
It's cool how sometimes it just takes that one thing to kickstart you. Like, I can't find inspiration. Ooh, what's this? This is interesting. And then all of a sudden you're like, now everything feels good again. Like, sometimes it just takes that one moment. But you know, if you go weeks, months, whatever, without finding that moment, it can be tough. But you know, if I was trying to work through it and just grabbing a camera and going out in the world, but that's just not really what I don't shoot daily moments or street photography or anything like that. I don't have anything against it. It just doesn't drive me personally. So it was actually kind of hindering me to grab a camera and just take a camera everywhere and shoot, because then I was like, oh, well, now I've got, 8 hours a day where I'm out in the world and I can't shoot any of this. It was messing me up. But yeah, you just got to push through those tough creative times and try to find a way to get past it. I know I've never met an artist in my life that didn't go through a period of where they didn't make work and where they felt like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And is this even me anymore? And who am I? We all have to soul search at some point.
That's so true. Trying to just make sure we stay good. And that's another big part of the community aspect of the Life of Phys, is that we build that community where we can all be like, hey man, you okay?
Yeah.
And let people know it's okay to ask somebody that.
Totally.
I didn't have a lot of people when I was going through some trouble in times in my life that just wanted to say, hey, are you okay?
Right.
And that's what I want to do. When people are struggling and you can see it. I mean, the way people write things, you know, when they're struggling.
Oh,
and all it takes is, hey man, are you good? Can I do anything for you?
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of times they'll just be like, thank you. I was just needed somebody to understand how I was feeling.
Totally.
And by all means, that's what the whole community is about.
Just to have someone see that you're not doing great sometimes. Just to like have someone be at least aware of how you are enough to be like, hey man, like, you good? Like, oh, someone gives a shit about me. That's nice. Okay, now I feel a little bit better knowing that someone cares, you know?
Exactly. So, man, it's, again, I always say this, but I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you giving me the time on my new platform.
Dude, I'm happy to be here. This is fun. I used to do a podcast with some buddies for a few years, and it's cool to be doing one again. It's fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I learned. I'm learning on the go. Right before this, I had a malfunction with my Rodecaster, bringing noise in from somewhere. I can't figure it out. No idea. It constantly plays noise, and then it scratches out my voice during the recording. So this is just straight Zoom audio.
Awesome. Make it work.
High fidelity. Yeah, man, just making it work, making it happen. So can we see, are we going to see a continuation on this mother project? Or are you going to be putting another part?
So that the belly that she's wearing is actually a fairly expensive movie quality prosthetic pregnant belly. Mm-hmm. I spent like $600 on the thing. It's stupid. But I originally had this idea for a series of photos of pregnant women smoking cigarettes. And I have no political agenda behind that. I just want to put that out there. That it's not, my mom saw those photos and like, is this a pro-abortion or is this anti? I was like, I don't know, Mom. I don't know what. Like, you tell me what it's about. Like, I don't. The Mother Project was very much like, I don't have a story. I want the audience to come up with their own story. So, keeping in that theme, I'm going to do a series of photos of pregnant women smoking cigarettes. I just haven't figured out what style it's going to be yet. I don't know if it's going to be studio, if it's going to be, lifestyle looking editorial. I'm still putting it together in my head. But so in a sense, there will be mothers smoking in these situations where they shouldn't be. Don't smoke if you're pregnant. That's my one political agenda, I guess. Don't do that. It's bad. It's not good for anybody. Try not to smoke if you can, but whatever, do what you want. Don't do it when you're pregnant. But no, I think that series as it is done. I think there's going to be work that's similar enough to hang on a wall next to that, but I think that this mother and this priest are done. I think. I don't know. Maybe there will be more. The actress Lily Keene, who plays the mother in the photos, I adore her. She's like just a rad person and a totally great actress, and I would love to work with her any way that I can again, so maybe we bring her back. Yeah, Neil Napier, the priest, he's just an awesome dude. He's an actor and a location manager, and everybody on that was so cool, man. It was the biggest production I've led on my own for my own work. I think the crew notes on there was 12 or 13 people, and everybody was there supporting me, which felt weird to have, an entire room of people being, what's next? I'm like, I don't shit. I guess, don't you guys know what you're supposed to be doing? Like, no, you all looking to me for guidance. That's awesome. But it was really cool.
Nice. I think just looking through the photos while we're talking here, where they're sitting in the kitchen, there's the green fridge and the wallpaper, but doing like some way of maybe even like having a camera inside the fridge.
Oh yeah, the sunny
and have her with curlers up.
Yeah,
right. Cigarette hanging out of her mouth, pregnant.
I love
like
that.
Just looking like she wants to just rip her kids apart.
I love that. We call that. I always call the Sunny D shot. Remember the Sunny Delight commercials from back in the day, where they open the fridge like, oh, what's this?
Yeah. But even like you could do it from like a stove perspective, even right. Like
that's
just
cool.
Again the curlers and just make it like Saturday morning. It's 6 a.m. Her other kid wants Cheerios and cartoons, but woke her up to get them.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of a Miles Aldridge vibe from that.
So she's just angry.
All right.
That's what I picture. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh man, there's many possibilities.
One thing I would love, anybody who's listening, wait, is this video or an audio podcast?
It's audio.
Okay. Anybody who's listening, I should ask that at the beginning. Anybody who's listening, you see the photos, and you have an idea, like if it sparks an idea in you of what it's about, I want to hear that. Because like I said, like I'm not pushing any story out there. I want the audience to infer their own story from the photos. I would love to hear what people think about it. Like I've heard what my mom thinks, and it's hard to say whether she likes it or not. But yeah, if anybody feels like it, like hit me up on Instagram or Threads or whatever, and let me know what you think about these photos, because that would be really cool.
Yeah, it'd be neat. Dude, this is my childhood right here. Not the priest.
Right.
That wasn't until grade 1. But I went to a private school because it would make me better, according to my parents.
Oh, did it work?
No.
They tried.
It took a while for me to realize that I was a good person trying not to be a good person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
I was trying to follow everybody else.
Yeah, I had the same thing when I was younger. I always wanted to hang with the bad kids. And I look back now and I'm like, I have great, loving, supporting parents and a good family life and a nice home. And like, why was I trying to be a bad kid? That's not me. I'm not a bad kid. I'm a good kid.
It took a long time to realize that they only wanted me around because in high school I was 6'2", 210 pounds, and nobody wanted to mess with me.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, they pretend to care about me as a person, so I'm friends with them, so I'm around them.
Gotcha.
And then after that, I had kids young, so I kind of separated from everybody. And just in the last 7 years, I'm trying to learn how to live in humility, right? I'm trying to learn how to live humble and know that myself is good enough, and that it's awesome that other people are just as good or better than me.
Yeah.
Caballero said, the best advice I can give you is, doesn't matter who the person is, they're just a person. And he made so much sense when he said it. He's like, people come to me and they put me on this pedestal, and that makes me so uncomfortable. And they put me on a pedestal because I ride a skateboard.
Right.
And I'm just a person. I have bills. I've done all these things he lists off. I've done this bad and this bad. I want my kids to be awesome. But, I'm a person. Just treat me like a person and everything's good.
Yeah. And I think that might be why I've had some luck in celebrity photo work, is that I try to treat people like they're people. Working in the entertainment industry for so long taught me that, I've worked with huge actors before. And if you really boil it down, we're both working at the same job today. I mean, I might be the bottom of the totem pole guy and they might be at the very top, but we're still working on the same project together. So if you just treat people like people, they tend to treat you that way back and appreciate it. And, people that don't get treated like people really appreciate it when they get treated like a human being.
That is exactly how up here you always see actors walking on the street when they're filming up here. And I don't know if it's a Canadian thing, but you'll get the occasional, they'll be all starstruck, but nobody bothers them.
Right.
Or if they say hello, it's hello, and we just keep moving. Like in my town here, Ryan Reynolds has a house down by the river. And I mean, he's from Vancouver. And my wife and I were just, we were eating on a patio at a restaurant down in Fort Langley. And he walks by and I was like, oh, cool. And my wife's like, that was Ryan Reynolds. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
He was just walking through the town, and it's a small town, but it was super busy. Nobody bothered him. That's all they want. It's just just treat them like a normal individual and like a normal human being. And they're super happy, probably have a conversation with you after that.
Absolutely. People are people.
So.
Yeah. Instagram things tend to get lost in the noise on Instagram, I find. So, try to give people the benefit of the doubt, I guess. And but yeah, I don't know if it's gatekeeping or if it's just people that, are like, who are you, random person on the internet? I want to help you. But I'm always happy to help. I mean, one of my cameras, I have a friend who sold his camera and he used to look to me for advice on shooting. And now he's borrowing. I have an X Pro 2 that I really don't use that much anymore. So he just has it for a week. I don't know what he's doing with it. But yeah, nice. Anytime I can help another photographer out, I'm happy to.
That's the greatest thing is I just did a lecture 3 or 4 months ago at this high school. On Wednesday, I went back and they had done their end of semester photos on the wall. So they asked me to come back and just talk with the kids about their photos.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
it was really hard to, like, they wanted me to critique them. And it's not my, I have a responsibility to help them grow, not to critique their art.
Right.
So I said that, and the teacher was like, I really like the way that sounds. And I said, critique is such a harsh word in the language, in the English language. Mm-hmm. There's no reason we can't critique something that's a solo endeavor. So I walked every single photo with the student who shot it. You know, I asked them, what did you see when you shot this photo? And then I said, this is what your photo says to me.
Nice.
And a lot of them looked at me and they're like, oh, what could I do better? And I'm like, do you like your photo? They're like, oh, I really do. And I'm like, nothing.
Right.
Because you're the one that needs to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
The best thing that I can find, like I shoot a lot of landscape stuff. So my biggest compliment is when I see somebody look at my work and they just stop and you can see it connect. They have a vision, which will be different than what I saw, but something in that image spoke to them. They stop. They spend all that time staring at it and really looking into it. So I walked every one of these photos, and at the end of each photo, I was like, you did a great job, you know, and you could see them light up like, oh, really? Awesome, thank you. Like, it was such an honor to even be invited to the school to have the lecture with the kids about, I did a lot of pitfall of social media and worrying about likes and follows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all do.
And how it will kill your creativity if that's all you're worried about. Yeah. And then we talked about what I like to shoot and how I like to shoot. And they did this project, man. And it was such a humbling experience.
That's awesome, dude. That's really cool. Being able to help kids that's awesome. I really like that.
Like I tell almost everybody I've interviewed, I consider you a friend now.
Definitely.
So if you're ever in town, you got a place to stay.
Oh yeah. If you're ever in
all you gotta do is let me know.
Let's hang.
That's for sure. 100%, man. Thank you for being open to coming on and helping me try to achieve that goal.
Absolutely, man.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, brother.
And thanks for coming on, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I look forward to catching up. So any projects you want to do a little, just to talk about when you have something coming out,
okay.
Let me know. And it'll just be like a 20-minute, get kind of straight to the point.
Oh, I know that.
I will do follow-ups. I want to do follow-ups with everybody because everybody has something happening. So if you do have something, we can always do a follow-up episode and kind of have it right into the release.
Cool.
So.
All right. I'd love to.
Yeah, man. It's all about community, brother.
Definitely. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
Oh, it was my pleasure. We'll touch base. I'm sure we'll shoot the shit constantly.
Absolutely. All right, man. It sounds good.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Life of Phys Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our chat, and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content and the stories of our incredible guests. And remember to stay connected with us on all social media platforms. It's at LIFE_OF_PHYS, and discover even more stories from the community over competition movement. Have a great day.